listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your number one source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, King. Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AfterBuzz TV's The Good Wife After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's The Good Wife After Show.
Hey everybody, so as we all know, Bing is for doing, and we are here at AfterBuzz bringing you another great TV show. I'm your host, Billy Nilles, and we are here to talk about the most recent Good Wife episode, Season 3, Episode 15, live from Damascus. A lot of stuff went down this last episode, so let's jump right into it. No further hesitation. We pick up in this episode almost immediately where we were left off with the conclusion of Wendy Scott Carr's sort of witch hunt for Will Gardner. We literally pick right back up with Peter dismissing Wendy from his office. And before we even jump into the business with Lockhart Gardner, I think we should stick on the state's attorney's sort of turmoil in these following days that we see in this week's episode regarding what Wendy has done. And we see that Peter is set to take care of some business. There's some rearrangements going on, and he's definitely trying to move some things around. So the next time we see the state's attorney's office, Carrie is sort of, we don't really see Peter this week before that initial or after that initial scene. But we can tell that he sent Peter to do some work. He's having Carrie do his bidding, and he's cleaning up. So we see Carrie with everybody around some sort of center office around these desks, and he's sort of relaying the speech, the middlemen to the troops, filling them in on the fact that there's going to be some restructuring, there's going to be some shifting, people's assignments are going to be moved around, and Carrie, will be meeting with each one individually to discuss where they're going next. And you can sense that there is some sort of inter-office turmoil regarding the people who were involved with the Wendy Scott Carr special assignment and the people who were not. And there's some definite anger aimed towards Dana, who was sort of given this position. She seems to come out of nowhere within the state's attorney's office and was put on this case, and it seems like there's some sort of animosity between the other attorneys who were not involved, and who it seems like maybe there's been some shame brought amongst the entire state's attorney's office, and we do see this sort of face-off between her and the other female attorney, and we instantly get the idea that Dana is on some rocky ground. And the very next scene we see with her, she's in Carrie's office, and she's trying to be sort of light, and her sort of flirty self that we've seen thus far out of her. And Carrie's very gruff, and he's very short with her, and just essentially tells her that she's being asked to take a step back from court and instead to focus on child support enforcement, which must be a slap in the face to a litigator who was just on a state's attorney's special assignment to now be having to run after deadbeat dads and get some money out of them. And she understandably takes this as an insult and as a slap on the wrist, like she's the one who's being put to blame. And she questions Carrie, and she says to him, why are you telling me this? Why am I the one who's being put into this position? And Carrie, you can tell he's uncomfortable, that he's being the one having to do what Peter is having him do, because Carrie was involved just as heavily as Dana was. But nevertheless, we have gotten Dana sort of out of our minds for the time being. She's sent into the child support enforcement department, I guess, which is what that is. and she's being put away. It'll be interesting to see whether or not Dana comes back, knowing The Good Wife and knowing how often guest stars are woven in and out of the storyline, and how people can disappear for weeks and weeks at a time, seasons even, and come back and become important. I would say it's safe to bet that Dana will be back, but I don't think we'll see her for a while. Switching gears and going into our other sort of B storyline this week, and the focus on Eli and the continuation with Stacey Hall, his arch nemesis, who is now, as we remember from our last episode, has dropped the bomb that she is going to be directing his ex-wife Vanessa's campaign. And so we first see him calling Kalinda, sort of questioning if she's the one who said anything to Stacey Hall about his ex-wife, and he runs, while he's on the phone with her, goes to Vanessa, and they have an argument. Vanessa sort of sets it straight for him and says, you know, I sought Stacey out, not the other way around. This isn't about you. This isn't about her trying to get one over on you. And it's not, I didn't pick her because of you. I sought her out because she's good. But Eli just can't let this go. He goes back to the office, and Stacey's there, and you know, she's angry because of what Eli, the sort of things that he had mentioned in the previous scene that has now obviously gotten back to her. And so there's still this power struggle between Eli and Stacey that has been ramping and ramping up in the past couple of episodes, sort of setting them as adversaries, yet they do have this underlying respect and attraction for each other, clearly by them having sex last week. There's a lot of intense emotions between the two of these people, and it is, in essence, he has met his match, I believe. She was quoted as such when she was introduced to the show, to that it was finally Eli was meeting his match, and I think that we've seen that they've really positioned Stacey Hall, Amy Sedaris' character, to be Eli Gold's essential peer, someone that he isn't above, because so often the Eli character was introduced to us and illustrated to us as a person who had no peers, who was above everybody else. He was far and away the best in his field, and it's been nice to see him sort of be rankled by this woman and be a little bit flustered and not really know what to do with her. I think it's maybe the first time in his career that he's ever had to deal with this, so it's been very interesting to see that. But he can't let this go. There's still the connection of his ex-wife and everything involved in that, and he keeps going to Vanessa, and they keep having these meetings, and he starts to suggest certain ways that things should be handled. Her affair with the Bin Laden relative, which could be seen as a scandal, and he has a definite different direction that she should take that in the course of her campaign than what Stacey has recommended. And so Vanessa finally comes to him and says, look, you either get to have no say in this, and you have to back off, or you're going to work on my campaign, but there's no middle ground. And of course he acquiesces, and he signs up, and he says he'll even take orders from Stacey, but he wants to be involved because he wants the best for her. So it'll be very interesting down the line to see where this goes. I will say that I've been kind of disappointed that we've had a removal of Eli from the central proceedings of this show. If anybody could be spun off of The Good Wife and live in a universe entirely separate and still maintain the same storyline, it would be Eli. There's very rarely any crossover anymore with him into Alicia's world. So that's been kind of disappointing for me. I don't know how it's been for any of you watching, but I have sort of missed him having interplay with these main characters on the show. I understand he's now become a main character himself, but he does feel very separate from the world that we've come to understand The Good Wife being in the prior two seasons. And I hope that when Peter's next campaign starts up, I don't know really the timeline for that, but I'm hoping that sooner rather than later, so we can see Eli sort of be a more central figure to every storyline rather than just be off on his own. And it makes sense why they've done this with him. Clearly they wanted to keep Alan Cumming within the world of the show, and not lose him by just having him be a recurring guest star, because he's just too good, and the character of Eli Gold was so well received when he was first introduced, that you understand why the producers added him and made him a series regular, but now I do think they've sort of found themselves in a position where their main storyline has not had any necessity for this character. Yet we have this series regular who I'm sure we're paying good money to. We've got to find something for him to do and keep him here so that when we do need him, he's there. And so I think that's been maybe the struggle, the way that I've understood it to be. It's not to say that I don't like the Eli storylines, because I do. They're always very interesting, but I just, there's a little bit of me that wishes that he was still sparring with Alicia the way he used to be, and that we were seeing that, which we haven't. Hopefully we will in the future, but as of right now, that's been pretty non-existent. But moving on to really the meat of the episode, really the meat of this season, has been this sort of persecution of Will Gardner. And we were left last week with sort of a sigh of relief. The case was dropped. Wendy was kicked out of the state's attorney's office. She was sent away by Peter. The grand jury decided not to go after him. But also we're left with this little nagging suspicion, because as Wendy is walking out, her last parting words, her last essential dying threat, is that she's going to go to the Bar Association and recommend or request his disbarment, essentially. And as we pick back up this week, we see that she has in fact done that. We see, while the firm is still celebrating this monumental win, Lionel shows up. Lionel was the attorney that he had met with before, that Will had met with before he decided to go with Elsbeth, who had advised him to just sort of roll over and take it. He's back, and he informs Will that the bar is pursuing his disbarment, that they've received anonymous charges regarding his illegal actions 15 years ago, and that the Bar Association has no statute of limitations for disbarment. So while that couldn't have been brought up in a court of law, the Bar Association can use that and plans to, and that there will be disciplinary proceedings beginning the next day. So as we have been celebrating that quickly, Will's celebration is cut short. He goes in and he tells Diane about this initial the information that's been brought to him. And she is obviously concerned. There's many concerns for Diane at this point. There's the concern of her livelihood and her firm, what this is going to do if Will tries to fight it, what it's going to look like on her. Also, she's, I think, concerned on a personal level. She and Will are clearly very dear friends, and they just thought they had received this victory, and it's been so quickly taken away. So we see Diane going to Lionel. We don't see the entirety of their conversation. We don't even see a bit of their conversation. But we do know that a conversation is held. It's clearly in regards to Will. And we next see Will in his disciplinary hearing. And it's clear that Diane, when in speaking to Lionel, sort of talked Will up regarding this pro bono department that they have started, which we've seen shades of earlier in the season. As we know, Will was actually opposed to this pro bono department, but Diane has made it seem as though it was his idea. She's sort of trying to brighten his character, make him seem somebody who shouldn't be disbarred, that he's doing good work now. He's sort of a reformed Will Gardner from the person who's being persecuted. And it seems to have sort of helped. They offer him a settlement, as it is, that if he chooses, he can have a suspension for 6 months, a probation with no cases, no clients, no entry in a courtroom. If he decides to turn that down, they will go through with the disciplinary hearing, and he will be disbarred, essentially. So it's not spoken, but it's pretty clear that if he doesn't take this deal, his career will be over. So we don't really see what he says, if he says anything. We see him explaining the situation to Diane, and oddly, Diane tells Will to fight it. She says 6 months away from the law will kill you, Will. So it's very odd. I don't know if Diane thought that by going to Lionel she would get this to go away completely, and that sort of backfired on her. I mean, when I heard the deal they offered, I was like, well, clearly he needs to take this because he's not going to win the disciplinary hearing, and 6 months is only 6 months. I mean, Alicia was away from the law for however many years, which Will alludes to later in the episode when he's explaining to Alicia just what he's going to do, just what he has to do. And he says he's going to take the suspension. You know, she was away for so long she came back. She was able to do it. 6 months isn't much time. Obviously, it does seem to all of these people to be a lot, but to me it seemed like count your blessings and take it and go, which he does. He goes to tell Diane, and we see really what this means for the firm, where she explains that he's not even going to be allowed in the office unless it's to hand off cases. They're going to have to change the name to Lockhart and Associates. Gardner has to be removed completely. And as he's going to leave, she tells Will, you'll have a place when you come back. And there's a look on Will's face that seems grateful yet concerned. I think that the way that they've sort of been speaking, that 6 months is so long and it's too long to be away, that he knows that she will try the hardest to do that, but I don't think he thinks it's a promise. And in the midst of all of this, there's a setup for a storyline down the road that obviously will be addressed in the handing off of Will's cases. Will and Diane call Alicia into their office and have a small little get-together, the three of them, and explain that they are handing over a solo case to Alicia, wherein she'll be representing Kalinda regarding various IRS charges before she came to work for Lockhart Gardner. Nothing else is spoken of this in this episode, so clearly this is a setup for the second half of this season. And we're left with Will cleaning out his office, taking his baseball bat, seeing Alicia at the elevator, and his last words to her are, follow Diane's lead, Alicia, you'll do fine. So really kind of shocking. I did not expect that we would be coming Lockhart and Associates at episode 15 of season 3. I don't know about any of you, but I was definitely thrown for a loop on this sort of turn. It's going to be very interesting to see where this goes. I'm excited about this positioning of Alicia and Kalinda together now having to work on this case. Now that we've seen their sort of iciness have a bit of a thaw. So they've really set us up for the second half of this season as things are beginning to sort of close down, and we're coming down the hill on season 3. And there's a lot of roads to go. Let's jump to a quick commercial. When we come back, we'll get your news and gossip, and then we'll talk about next week's episode. We'll be right back.
AfterBuzz TV. Hi, I was once like you, a lazy, angry loner whose only joy was watching TV and surfing the net. And, like you, after I'd see one of my favorite TV shows, I'd be so excited and have so many questions that I'd actually have to talk to my douchebag coworkers about it at the water cooler. Then I discovered AfterBuzzTV.com. AfterBuzz TV produces after-show webcasts and podcasts for TV series of all kinds, like post-game wrap-up shows for all your favorite TV shows. AfterBuzz TV hosts are industry insiders who break down episodes of shows, take calls from fans, and interview cast and crew from each series, with over 60 different after shows, from Boardwalk Empire to American Idol to Vampire Diaries to Real Housewives, and more. Now, after a night of TV, I can ignore my stupid coworkers, who I hate, and go straight to my desk and watch or listen to all my favorite AfterBuzz TV after shows, and have all the TV fan interaction I need. Thank you, AfterBuzz TV.
AfterBuzz TV. What do you want to buzz about?
Oh, welcome back to AfterBuzz TV for The Good Wife. Let's jump right into our news and gossip.
AfterBuzz TV News.
Alright, so huge Good Wife news. Matthew Perry is joining the CBS legal drama in a recurring role. The Friends star will play an attorney from Chicago named Mike, who's heading up a blue ribbon panel in charge of investigating a police shooting. While Mike is described as, quote, ultra charming, he won't have an easy time winning over Alicia Florrick, played by Juliana Margulies, who thinks his interest is more political than truth-seeking. Quote, no one skates as effortlessly between drama and comedy as Matthew Perry, so we're especially thrilled to have him on the show, Good Wife co-creators and exec producers Robert and Michelle King told Entertainment Weekly in a statement. We're huge fans and are nearly giddy over what he can do with the role. The role marks Perry's first significant part in a TV drama since Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip 6 years ago. Before that, Perry had several guest appearances on NBC's The West Wing. His most recent TV gig was the ABC sitcom Mr. Sunshine. Though Perry has signed on as a recurring character, it's not yet clear how many episodes he'll be in. He'll mark his Good Wife debut on Sunday, March 25th. And oh how we love Archie Punjabi, perhaps in part even because of the way she craftily parses out scoop. Just before she won an NAACP Image Award last Friday for Best Supporting Actress in a Drama Series, she was seen on the red carpet and asked what's ahead for Kalinda and Carrie, especially now that Dana seems out of the picture as ever. Quote, "It gets even more interesting and complicated," she shared. Oh, so might we see some new romantic developments on that front? I think you're going to see some interesting developments on that front, she teased. You'll definitely see them in an interesting dilemma. As for the seed planted in the latest episode, in which Alicia needs to help Kalinda out of some IRS-related pickle, Punjabi confirmed that storyline will stretch into the season finale, adding that the matter will become really quite worrying for Kalinda. Alright, well that's our news and gossip for The Good Wife. Let's jump right into some predictions and end this thing.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
All right, so looking at the press release for this coming episode, the episode is titled Against the Fall, and CBS's press website, their little blurb is, while power grabs are being made at the firm, Alicia and Caitlin square off against old foe Nancy Crozier. Meanwhile, Peter discovers the price of taking the moral high ground on The Good Wife. Now, Nancy Crozier, I believe was last seen the beginning of this season. She's played by Mamie Gummer, who is Meryl Streep's daughter. And yeah, I'm pretty sure she was in the beginning of the season. She's the blonde, younger attorney who plays everything very aloof, and she tries to play dumb with judges and like a cute young girl who doesn't know what she's doing when she clearly is very on top of her game. So I'm really excited to see her come back in and how she sort of ruffles Caitlin's feathers. We also are going to be introduced to both of Will's sisters, which we spoke about a couple of episodes back when the press release came out about who was cast for them. Their first appearance will be this Sunday. And most interestingly, as the blurb says, that power grabs are being made at the firm, as we saw in the scenes, the upcoming scenes for this episode at the end of our last episode. Julius, played by Michael Boatman, is making a play. He wants to replace Will on the letterhead and wants to take his office. So Diane is going to have some juggling to do, and I'm really excited to see the sort of office politics that come into play, because I think that's always when The Good Wife is at its most fun. Obviously, week by week, the cases that they bring in are always very well written, always very interesting, are always very intriguing. But I do think that for fans of the show, for who aren't just casual viewers, it's these relationships and this sort of political maneuvering that we see these people do. That's really what draws us in, and so I'm super excited for that to be at the forefront, as Will has sort of left this mess on Diane's lap, and also really excited about this Kalinda Alicia team up that we're going to see, that as we heard in our news and gossip, that Archie Punjabi teased that it's going to be drawn out all the way to the end of the season. It's going to be, I'm excited. I definitely think that what this is going to do is bring Alicia and Kalinda back together. It'll really cement this sort of renewal of their friendship after their falling out. So I'm very excited for that. Also in the press release, some other cast members who recur on and off who are going to be there. Chris Noth is going to be in this episode as Peter. Always fun to have Peter in the mix. David Lee is going to be there as well. You can't say office politics at Lockhart Gardner without David Lee nosing around. And also Donna Brazil, who appeared in a couple episodes back as herself, is going to be back. So I imagine Eli will be meeting with her again as well. So a lot to look forward to next week. Thanks for checking us out. If you like us, subscribe on iTunes, comment, share us with your friends, help us out. Thanks for watching. From everybody here at AfterBuzz, have a great night, and we'll see you next week.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.